From a closet, also known as the Jim McCarthy Voiceovers World Headquarters Studio, this is the JMVO Weekly Primer. Please subscribe, rate, and comment via jimmccarthyvoiceovers.com/podcast. This is the JMVO Weekly Primer. And this podcast is about making your life better through marinating your mind in good stuff. My name is Jim McCarthy, owner, operator, and chief bottle watcher at jimmccarthyvoiceovers.com. And I believe that as business owners and entrepreneurs, we are bombarded by negativity every day, and it's the last thing we need. If you want to see your life and business change for the better, consume nurturing good stuff. The JMVO Weekly Primer, of course, is brought to you by big.lighting.com. We are LED lighting conversion specialists. Right now, we've got the lamp plan, where if you're a business and you're thinking about doing the whole LED lighting conversion, the lamp plan enables you to make it an operational expense as opposed to a capital expense, and trying to figure out and navigate all the hoops and planning for 2020 and all that stuff. This enables you to get your lighting system changed immediately rather than doing it down the road in the new year. And also by Big Dot Electrical. A lot of realtors out there are needing good electricians in and around Nashville. So if you have a need for an electrician to help you with your home inspections, your home sales, and all that stuff, man, we're looking to partner with you on a realtor level. big.electrical.com. And today, I've got special guests. It has a lot to do with what we typically talk about, being entrepreneurial and stuff like that, but I'm having them on for a reason. Being that they're customers of mine that came to me to voice their podcast. And I ended up, I listen to all the podcasts that I do, that I voice, and, either they hook me or they don't. And I got to say, from day one, you guys had me at hello. Okay.
Thank you.
You had me at world class, at world famous PodGoats, right. I believe. So Mr. Phil Valentine and Campbell Valentine, please welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here. Oh, and by the way, we're broadcasting live. I guess, well, we were going to go semi-live,
right,
here at the beautiful, world-class, state-of-the-art Mercedes-Benz of Music City.
This is beautiful, man. I've never been here before.
You've never been, right?
Yeah.
It's the Mercedes dealer by the airport in Nashville.
Yeah.
Off of Envious Lane, of all things.
That's right. Yeah, we talked about it. When we hit 1 million downloads, we're going to get a Mercedes convertible just to celebrate.
You both pulled up in the Jags.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Well, that's the Bentley.
That's the Bentley. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Please don't insult me.
How dare I make that mistake? So the intriguing thing here is the fact that, father and son, you kind of have the unfair advantage of having a massive background in radio.
Right. 40 years.
40 years.
40 years,
of unprecedented experience in the radio business. And Phil's been on my show before, and I thank you for that. But I'm intrigued by you, okay? Campbell.
Well, I don't know why. He's just some millennial kid. I mean,
But the thing is that, dude, you're a pretty masterful storyteller. All right.
Well, I don't have the chops that Philco here has, and that's what I call him. I call him Philco.
I know that's one of the stories I wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. Where did that name come from?
What is that? A paper company?
No, it was a Philco Electric or whatever. My oldest brother Steve, always called me Philco for whatever reason, and then they heard him saying it when they were growing up, so they just adopted it and they called me Philco. So I guess when we have grandchildren, if we ever have grandchildren, I'll be, Philco, can you give me some of those? Hey, Philco's coming over to visit,
It's a unique name for sure.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
But with his experience, as far as like our dynamic, the advantage that I have is we're playing on my turf. I'm picking the topics, and that's one thing that I don't think a lot of folks know is that he doesn't know anything going into these shows.
I don't know anything, period. It's obvious when you listen to the show.
But he goes in fresh, and I'll throw you a bone on that.
Thank you.
Begrudgingly.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. Begrudgingly. You know a lot of stuff. And
so he picks the topic. So we had a guy that called in and said, I'm going to start a drinking game of every time Campbell says, you didn't know that? And I go, no. And so, you drink. And so it happens all the time. But he does the show prep for it, the topics, and I just sit down, and he has researched his stuff, and so he brings stuff. I mean, a lot of things, it really is a learning experience for me because I've never heard a lot of this stuff. So it's fun for me just from a learning aspect.
Where are you getting all the topics from? And I'm going to tick through some of the show names here. Your first one was back. I'm actually scrolling back. I should have been more prepared, and I apologize.
Doomsday was the first one. Yeah.
Preparing for Armageddon in the funniest way possible. I don't know if I listened to that one, but I listened to Spies, Conspiracies, Music. That was the first one I listened to, the music episode. And you have like this hodgepodge of very interesting topics that you guys just delve into.
Yeah, everything but politics.
Right, everything but, and that's what makes it harder to find, because people say, like when we categorize it on iTunes or whatever, what is it? Well, we don't know what it is. It's, is it history? Sometimes it's history. Is it
entertainment?
Yeah, well, I guess
it's entertainment.
It is. Well, that's it's a broader umbrella. But people ask us what is it? I think the only thing that makes us really different is a father and son dynamic,
right.
And it's always humorous, always lighthearted.
And like in any radio situation, I could tell you're really excited about it, Phil.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because it's new.
Yeah, it's absolutely new.
And then you like doing it better than your daily grind show?
I wouldn't say I like it better, but it's
question.
Well, it is a tricky question. It's different. It's completely different. It's a different dynamic, because he and I have a different dynamic than I have with Johnny B.
Yeah,
and so that's a whole different thing. So I don't know. I mean, I love talking politics, and then I love not talking politics. I love getting away from it sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah, and this is like what we do at home. So it doesn't seem
all that different.
Yeah, it doesn't seem out of the ordinary for me. And we don't really talk about politics a lot.
Let's talk about the name PodGoats.
Now, I know that threw you at first. Are you going, what the heck is a PodGoat?
Well, I mean, I know it's an acronym. GOAT is, greatest of all time, right? But I mean, is that you actually have an affinity for goats? I mean, is this?
Yeah, well, we do PodGoat yoga. A lot of people don't know that. So we'll actually come to your studio and walk on your back. So. But that's going to be a little sideline that we got going on. No, actually, my wife, Susan, his mother, came up with this. I mean, we were sitting around talking. Well, first, let me give you a little background.
Came up with all of it.
Yeah, she came up with the whole thing. She said Campbell was getting out of UT, and he had an English degree, of course, which is absolutely useless. So we're trying to figure out what can we do with him.
Speaking of that, I had a girl. You know what an MRS degree is?
Oh yeah, that's a Mrs. Yes.
I was in like a 400 level like English class with only English majors, and we were talking about our degrees, and she goes, "Yeah, I'm just getting an MRS degree." And I looked around like, we're in the same English class.
Yeah.
So an MRS is she's going to marry somebody rich. She's going to be Mrs. somebody.
But you never know.
Yeah, so you came out of UT with an English degree, and of course he's been writing the great American novel that's based in Louisiana, New Orleans, and so he's been going down there. Well, so he says, hey, I need to go back to New Orleans again. I got to do more research. And of course, he's staying at these the hotels, and we get the bar bill and everything else. Well, it was research, but so we're trying to figure out. He would talk about a career in broadcasting,
right?
And then
naturally,
and then he's thinking.
And at that point, you're basically no.
I would encourage him to do it because it's been so much fun to me. But then broadcasting is changing, and podcasting is becoming the thing. And so he's thinking, well, maybe I want to be a professional podcaster. I'm trying to pop my P's. I don't have my headphones on, so I can't tell.
You're good. You're good.
Thank you. So my wife says, why don't you do a podcast together? And I'm thinking, normally I'm thinking politics. So I say, okay, what we'll do is we'll take me, I'll take his, he's a millennial or thereabouts. We'll get his perspective on things, and I'll ask him questions like, what's up with your crowd and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Why do you like her? And so we tried that we did, and we called it, I came up with this name actually, You're Right and So Am I. Is that what we called it?
Yeah.
Which was even hard for me to remember. So we did about 2 or 3 episodes, I guess, and we were listening to it, and I was digging it because, and Campbell said, I could tell, I said, what's wrong? He said, I'm just not feeling it, man. It's not that I don't know politics. It's just that I don't want to talk politics. I want to talk something that we have in common.
Right.
And I said, well, we got a lot of stuff in common besides politics. And so the first one, doomsday. What happens with an EMP when it hits? What do we do when the whole grid goes down?
And that's what we had talked about. We had a conversation when I was still in school. You were saying, all right, if an EMP hits, this is what you're going to do. You're going to
Yeah, we actually
You're
had
gonna
this
start
conversation.
hightailing
Yeah,
it
it's
to
a little bit
Nashville.
closer. You don't have headphones, as you can tell. You got to work that mic close. Am I right, Jim?
This is my amateur.
That's my next step is getting headphones for you guys.
No, that's okay. You just got so. Yeah, we talked about I had a whole protocol because his youngest brother Douglas was at UT too. And I said, okay, you're farther out than Douglas is. Douglas is in town, so if we get hit by an EMP, here's the protocol. Douglas is
And it
going
was
to come.
super elaborate,
Yeah,
too.
Douglas is going to come to your place. Then you're going to, we had a whole network of how we're going to stay in touch, and you just have to think about these things. Most people don't.
It's like a fire escape plan.
Exactly. So we had a protocol set up for in case the grid went down.
Yeah,
So
and
what would we do?
it was completely harebrained. You were like, "Do you see a horse? Get on the horse." We were both stressing out.
You see that road that says "Do not enter"? Go down that road.
That's right.
I was like, "I haven't ridden a horse since I was 7." You're like, "Get on the horse, bring him. We're gonna need him." Why are you yelling at me, man?
So we did a podcast about that, and then he said, "What about spies?" 'Cause
Right.
I write spy novels, so let's talk about that. So we both love James Bond, so we did. So we're looking for a name for this thing, and my wife threw this up. We're just sitting in the den brainstorming, and we're coming up with all stuff, and she goes, "How about PodGoats?" And we went, "All right, what's next?" All right, we went on to move
Yeah.
something else, and he said, "How about so-and-so?" And I said, "How about so-and-so?" And Susan said, "No, really, how about PodGoats?" And when she said it the second time, I went, "Wait a minute. Say that again."
Yeah.
PodGoats. It takes a little getting used to, but then it rolls on. Hey, the PodGoats are here. The PodGoats are doing that. The PodGoats are on the air.
The world famous podcast.
The world famous
That's
podcast.
right.
And it just sort of flowed from there. So she came up with the concept. She came up with a name. It's her baby.
Well, I like it because I keep on giving you more vocal tracks
Oh, I know,
for free.
we
I
like-
just can't- I'm like, okay, I'm going to record that. I got to
Yeah,
get
we
that
used
over
that in
to
the
him.
last one too.
You should. Absolutely.
If you haven't heard it yet, is that in the advertising one?
Yeah.
Yeah, listen to the advertising one. You'll get a kick out of the intro. when we
You
do
can
it.
go ahead and give me a shout out anytime.
Oh, we do. On there we do, yeah. And so that's how that all came up. We did, PodGoats were born. And I'm telling you, there was a change. I mean, we both probably, we do this at our cabin. We got a studio that I built in the cabin in a walk-in closet. And we walked back in there the first day as the PodGoats, and we're going, we're the flipping PodGoats.
A whole new attitude.
A whole
That's
new
right.
attitude. I mean,
You know who I am.
we're the PodGoats, man.
Do you know who I'm going to be?
Yeah, it's an attitude change. And so we just assumed the persona of the PodGoats, and here we are.
Well, now that I'm sitting in front of you, I'm like, you get hit with all the things the people that you resemble. You talked about doppelgangers
Right.
Yeah.
in one of the episodes, which was very interesting. Vocal you said that. Well, I don't think you sound like each other at all.
I don't
Really?
think we do. I don't
Yeah.
think we do.
I don't think we do either. But
Everybody
even
does.
my brother-in-laws, who's known him since he was born and has known me for 30 years, he thinks we sound alike.
Maybe he remembers you at his age.
Maybe. Could be, yeah.
And that's
a
maybe
good
you
point.
sounded, because you do have you got some big pipes.
And you sound like me in your wedding video, so that makes
Do
sense.
I? Okay. Well,
about
that's
Interesting.
interesting, yeah.
So when you get older, your
You're going to
seasoned
sound like
voice-
this, Campbell.
But thank the Lord I'm not going to look like you. Just vocal doppelgangers.
No, I look at you. I think the dude from I think his name is Zach Braff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm following you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the other in that episode, the doppelganger episode? You talked about finding people with names.
Oh, yeah.
The scenario. So the little scenarios and little pranks that you played,
I have no life.
but they're hilarious.
I have nothing
You're
better
talking
to
about
do
the
with my
Facebook
time.
stuff and the thing he goes on there and trolls people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I messaged that guy named Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, man, this is out of the blue, but I'm pretty sure I know your aunt. And he was like, oh, do you actually? He's like, well, what's my aunt's name then? And I was like, isn't she Aunt Petunia? Or Uncle Vernon, don't you live it? And he was like, he got furious. He's like, never message me ever again. He's just
Leave me
lost.
It's not like I never hear that. Thanks.
And I did the same thing with a bunch of guys named Austin Powers, where I would send them messages and say, hey, man, I'm not mad, but the girl I'm dating, it's your ex-girlfriend. Like, we got to hash some stuff out. And he's like, oh, well, like, which of my ex-girlfriends is it? And I was like, it's a girl named Vanessa Kensington. And then I'd send a picture of Austin Powers. Complete freak out. They would just lose it.
But in the Fathers episode, I listened to both of those. You
Yeah,
guys-
Fatherhood Part 1 and Part 2.
Was it Fatherhood?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of the earlier ones, or probably a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And you guys talked about some of the stories you had that all of us can relate to. that, you know, I thought about some of the things that happened with my father and us coming up, and how, I don't know, you threw some parties, and I guess you just recently found out about the...
Well, yes, some of the stuff I just recently...
How you had to impersonate it.
Talking about the vocal doppelgangers.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to this guy who is an avid listener of his show. And he was going, you know, we need to figure out some punishment for your boys. And he said boys, and I was like, well, you know, my middle son, Campbell, was not involved in this. It's not his personality.
Right.
But we were going through all this stuff, and he was trying to figure out punishments, and we got like 15 minutes into the conversation, and then he starts talking about stuff on the show. Well, I don't know anything that he's been talking about. So he would go on a rant for like 5 minutes. It's like, you know, someone said they're buying up all this, and I would say, look. That's just Obama for you. That's the only thing I could think to keep saying. And you go, ain't that the truth, dadgummit? That's the truth.
You know, I'm going to go farther back and say, you know, Bill Clinton.
That's right. That was, yeah.
Let's just take it all the way back.
Yeah. And so he bought it, too. And to this day, he has no idea that was Campbell he was talking to. He thought it was me.
He may know now.
Well, he may if he listens, but he may not.
But he kept on calling. He kept on pinging you on your number, right?
He called me one night when I was at a bar. It was like 11:30. I think he had seen something on one of his hunting cameras, and he called me. Hello. And he was like, "Hey, Phil," and I was like, "Hey, I'm in a meeting. Let me call you right back." Like, what kind of meeting am I going to be in at 11:30 at night?
What are you meeting with Beyonce? Come on, for crying out loud! So
you were in a meeting, absolutely.
But so I've used it to my advantage, even though I don't think that we sound all that.
Well, some people do, and when they do, you go for it.
Well, the funny thing is that a lot of the things that you talk about take a lot of risk to delve into. That, you know, impersonating your dad to get your brother off the hook was a little bit of a risk.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
And then going back to one of the other stories that I remember, and I was telling somebody about it here before we began. I said, when he was 13 years old.
Oh, yeah. That's the attraction episode.
Yeah.
Picking up chicks.
Picking up chicks, a pickup artist book. And he went through the book.
Have you seen the picture of this dude when he was 13? Oh, you need to see. We posted it on. You can go to.
Which is funny because it's only 10 years ago.
Yeah, I know it. But where would they find that on Twitter? On our
on our Twitter page. I was the exact same weight I am right now, which is about $160, but I was scrunched down
about
to
411.
Like
and with hair, he looked like Cousin It. You know, got hair down here and hair all down here. And then this dude has read this book called The Game about these pickup artists, and he's employing the lines. And it's actually working. So he starts holding seminars at the Borders books before school. And you got like football players, seniors and stuff. They're in there taking notes. And there's this little sawed-off little chubby guy.
You were throwing some stones, man. At least I was getting wet. Yeah, I was out there teaching people how to pick up women.
You had never been on a date before. You'd never been on a date.
But I was qualified to be a teacher.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's
in
the thing about it. No, you're qualified to be a consultant. That's, a consultant is a guy who knows a lot of positions but doesn't know any women.
And a man of many hats.
So, so he knows
theory.
Yeah, that's right.
Strategy.
That's right. He knows all that. So he's teaching all these guys how to pick up women, and it's working. We ran into somebody recently. Was that you? Were you with us? And they said, it was our cousin. Were you there when she
said
you
picked him up?
No, it was a she. I picked her up. No, it was your cousin, and she says that one of her friends, a male friend of hers, was listening to that episode.
Yeah,
you remember that?
Yeah.
And so they're in college at Mississippi State, and so he goes to this party and he starts using some of the stuff he's heard on the podcast, and it's working.
Yeah,
and
working like a charm.
Oh, she says working like crazy. He goes up to the most popular girl on campus, and it starts talking to her, and then goes, you just spit in my eye? And she said, no, I didn't. And she's rubbing his hair and rubbing his eye, and he's going, listen. And then he starts talking to the girl next to her and ignoring her, and she's going, wait a minute, let's get back to you. And he said,
I need to be charging for this.
You really do.
It was great advice.
It's valuable information.
It's total. And so, you're teaching me stuff, and I'm married. I'm like, I need to start using this
on your own wife.
Right. I was actually with a friend of mine the other day from my networking chapter, and he talked about. He's like, oh yeah, whenever I cold call on a business, I use the Paul method.
The Paul method.
And he was about your age, and I'm going, I'm pretty adept at sales and selling and know a lot, but I'm always interested in learning new stuff.
Right.
Okay, what's the Paul method?
Yeah.
He goes, I just go into a business and walk up to the receptionist and be like, hey, is Paul in? he's no, oh, he's not, is he not here anymore? He was in charge of purchasing. She goes, oh, he's like, well, who replaced him?
And then you're in.
That's good.
That is
really good.
That is really
Oh, that's brilliant.
yeah.
I'm going to steal that for sure.
See, I got a guy here who was great friends with Paul. They're going, Paul? Who the heck is Paul?
You guys remember Paul?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That was before our time.
And everybody kind of remembers Paul.
Yeah.
That was before our time, I think, yeah.
But a lot of the stuff you talk about, maybe this is the entrepreneurial tie-in, you talking about that in that episode is very entrepreneurial. This is it's sales 101 stuff, but because it's always a transaction, especially when you're trying to pick up a woman. Mm-hmm. But the other technique you mentioned was the hey, I notice you're attracted to me.
I couldn't help but notice. Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry. I was going to do this whole thing, but let's just get this out of the way.
Sure.
Honestly, a lot of folks say that's the best way to do it, is just completely blunt.
I couldn't help but notice, but that you are just infatuated with me, and we got to talk about this. I know.
We're going to hash this out.
But but a lot of people wouldn't have the stones to do that.
Well, he has the stones. Let me tell you, this dude's always had the stones. So.
Where did you get that from? Talk about that.
Well, here's the deal. I think what we're confusing stones with is
confidence.
I don't get embarrassed easily.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true.
So that's more or less where it comes from. I always know there's gonna be a funny story to tell. If it blows up in my face, it'll be a good story.
Right.
So we had this big wig that I used to on one of the episodes I talked about where I used to reject the basketball when they were kids, and
Right.
I had this big afro wig that I would wear. It was a clown's wig.
Right.
So he puts on shorts, that are real short shorts, and I think a tank top that was about 3 sizes too short. This is when you were like in middle school or whatever, and puts on that big clown wig and just walks into there's a place we used to eat called Cross Corner. It's not there anymore. And he just walks in like it's normal and just sits down, and people looking around, and he's going like, what? Don't look at me like that. And I'm going,
You got to be self-amusing, man.
well, I see the other two kids, they're going, oh my God, they're embarrassed for him. They would never dream of doing that themselves, but here this guy doesn't care. He's got this big clown's wig on and, short shorts.
And as a
just
father,
walking and carries it off.
And you're just sitting there just going,
Who is this kid?
I don't know where he came from. It's because I think you and I probably have a lot in common. I was that kid.
Oh, were you?
I was just, the joker.
Yeah.
Well, you
gotta
heard
be
the
that guy.
episode when they dared him to strip down to his underwear.
Yes.
Yeah, and he
That was
goes
good.
up to the lady's house and
Yeah, but see,
says
that backfired because there was a girl.
that you went to school with in there.
That's a nice little twist to that, though.
Well,
That
and
didn't even
also-
Did you get embarrassed then?
No.
Had to.
No, not really.
Really?
No, I did get a little embarrassed. I know. Well, it was just more. Yikes.
Yikes. I didn't expect that.
That also reminds me, y'all used to take us to a place. I don't know what this is. Maybe something I should discuss with a therapist. Y'all used to take us to this place called Just Like Home for Kids.
Oh yes, that's right. They call it the strip mall orphanage.
Is it where they watch your kids for a couple
Exactly.
hours?
While we go eat.
And,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
they're watching like 6-year-olds, right? They're heating up Hot Pockets.
Is this the place in Cool Springs?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in. Is it still there?
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think it's still there anymore.
I think, okay, keep going. 'cause
Well, so y'all had this routine of dropping us off there and going out to eat, but you kept it going until Carr, who's just a couple years older than me, we had gotten so old that we walked in and the girl running the corral was a girl in Carr's class in school. And she said, Carr? And he just said he wanted to die. And she said, well, since you're here, can I heat you up some dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets or something? And he just, I don't think we ever went back after that.
No, that was the last time. Because I'll have to admit, I said maybe they're old enough to stay at home. She said, no, Douglas, who's the youngest, is not.
No,
old.
Douglas is 21. We can't leave him.
So we left them there at the strip mall orphanage, and Carr was old enough to run the place. So it was really embarrassing for him.
Strip mall
But we've screwed with Carr. There's so many embarrassing things we've done with Carr because he was the oldest one. So
Right.
you make all the mistakes, and you can't go back. But then you learn with the second one, and then you make a few more mistakes, and then you make fewer mistakes with the third one.
Perfect.
The third
That's right.
one, the third one's got free reign.
That's right.
Yeah, they got. I mean,
and he got smart and just moved to Australia.
See, my oldest, we put all three of them into the strip mall orphanage that you're talking about.
Oh, just like y'all were at, just like Alan?
It was spontaneous. We were invited, like we took the kids out to like one of these jump house play places on a Sunday afternoon, and a realtor friend of mine contacts me and he says, "Hey, we're having a Christmas party. I'd love for you to come by. It's going to be at Wild Ginger." And I said, I talked to Courtney, my wife, and I said, "Hey, there's a place here that will watch the kids for a few hours while we go and just hang out, and he wants us to come." And she was very hesitant about it. And I said, "Don't worry about it. So they'll be fine." So we drop them off at this place, and as we leave, they're just the little distance viewpoint of them.
And they're looking through the window.
They're looking at it like, "Dude, really?" And we're like,
See ya. Oh, yeah. Well, we got you. I mean, we never had any compunction about it to start with. I mean, we're taking them over there when they're just crawling around.
Yeah.
Hey, take our kids for a while. If you don't, we're liable to kill them.
Yeah, we came back. You would have thought we put them in San Quentin.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They were like, "Get us out of here."
Oh, yeah. Standing by the window.
The one that I thought would have the thickest skin, she looks at us and like we're walking towards the door, and she starts going, she's done.
Oh, no.
What happened? She's like, they gave us pizza and they cut the pizza slices even smaller.
Oh, please, come on. It's time to grow up now, okay?
Like,
Mom and Daddy got to have a night out.
I know. Hey, we took you out. We'll give you
How old are
ice
your
cream.
kids now?
They're 12, 10, and 7.
Okay, so now they can keep themselves.
Yeah. Well, actually, the 12-year-old watches the other two. And,
See, well, think about that. Would
Yeah.
you think about taking those 3 kids to the strip mall orphanage? No.
Not anymore.
No. Well, we
No.
took when Carr, he was 13.
Yeah.
Campbell was 11. We took him, and Douglas was 8. So we took all 3. I mean, that was just, I don't
We
know.
were
We
like
know what
sitting
we're
in the
thinking.
chairs, and we're like 6 times bigger than them. Playing, they're like babies crawling all around us. We're like just killing some
What are
kid
we
in
doing here? Yeah.
Mario.
So should we bill you?
Yeah. Well, I think the lady who owned it offered Carr a job. So
That's awesome. That's hilarious. Oh my God, that's so funny. With the notion of the podcast though, and you kind of wanting to get into it professionally. I mean, you brought even an advertiser on board.
yes.
Diamond Gusset Jeans.
Yes.
2 S's, 1 T.
That's right. That's
Don't
right.
forget it.
Which has been phenomenal for them because they've just gotten so much response from it.
Right.
And it's funny because I was in North Carolina a few weeks ago. I had to make a speech in Fayetteville, and my Hurricane Mark that I talked about, his son was there, Jackson. And he came up and he said, "You wearing the Diamond Gusset jeans?" So, I mean, he's been listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
So but see, that's a great kind of sponsor because you can, you go to gusset.com. That's 2 S's, 1 T there, Jim, gusset.com. And you can order them.
Right.
And so it's one of these sponsors you can get that you can, you can order it from anywhere. And so we've got folks, they're getting orders from all over the place.
And you see that, ladies and gentlemen, that is what you call a sneak-in line.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
We just work that in like it's natural part of the
And
conversation.
what's so amazing about Diamond Gusset, that's 2 S's, 1 T.
That's right.
is you can use the
.com.
promo code PodGoats.
And the funny
right.
thing is that they probably have a factory somewhere that could use better lighting, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Which is
So with big dot lighting,
I
sure.
can imagine that big dot lighting could help them.
Big dot lighting. So you're aware of those guys, aren't you?
Oh yeah, that's right. I think they have a factory in Georgia, so they could actually do that. They're American made, by the way. And by the way, when you go to gusset.com, use PodGoats, and you get 20% off.
So are we too late to the show to start advertising with you as
No,
Big
not
Dot?
at all. No, you're never to. We always can fit you in.
That's right. And you know what? I'm more than happy for the shout-outs to keep providing you guys with voice drops and stuff.
That's great.
We've loved the voice drop.
Yeah,
Whenever
love
you
it.
want Christopher Walken to make an appearance. That's another thing, a show on impressions.
Yeah, we got a big kick out of it when you said that was hilarious. I was showing him
hilarious.
I know you did the Bill Clinton, too. That was pretty right. I like that. Do you actually do the thumb thing and point like you're holding a Harry
And
Potter wand?
Of course, you can't. The reason you do the thumb thing, you see, is because if you can't point.
You can't point.
No, and you can't do a fist.
No.
So you got to do,
It's basically taking this, holding a wand and turning it over.
There you go.
That was actually in a body language class that I just...
Oh, really?
Yeah. She talked about that. She says you don't want to point it.
I've always heard that too.
Yeah, you always want to... It's very subtle.
It's abrasive.
Did you point back at her and say, that's a lie?
She even said that, That's actually not a body language. Would be a good topic for you guys.
It would.
That actually would be a
Would
great
it translate to podcast though? That's
Well, you got to get a video portion.
Well, we got it. We're going to start doing
that.
that.
Talk about body language, and you
Yeah.
know, there are a lot of things in body language that we're perceiving, and we're not even
true.
realizing, but it's forming an impression of somebody in our head.
It may be even more effective when you're just listening to it because you can imagine what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of visual and stuff like that. But I mean, she talks about, and I'm holding my hands up
Yeah.
like a peace sign, but in reverse.
Right.
That's actually very offensive in
Is it?
European countries.
Like,
And,
yay.
yeah, like it's like giving the bird here.
Especially when you do it under your chin.
Yeah.
You know, like that. Yay.
But I come to find out, and I told my business, one of my our operations director for Big Dot this morning. I said, "Yeah, apparently it's offensive in Europe." He says, "Yeah, well, the reason why is because once upon a time the French." When I guess French and Britain were warring or whatever, I'm not sure about
Really?
when that happened. Yeah. When they were warring, the snipers were archers. And whenever they caught them, because they're so good at what they did, they would cut off their two fingers. So the Brits would go around and go like this.
Yeah, I got
I
mine.
still got mine.
I got mine. Yeah.
You know, that
I
was
like
that.
So I was like, really? Yeah,
That's pretty.
I learn something new every day.
But that, I mean, you're talking about holding a grudge. I mean, come on, folks. I mean, they're still offended by that because they cut off their fingers because they were archers. Come on.
Well, she was even saying that when you do the okay thing, that
Oh,
means
yeah.
that means if you do that like this, it's
Yeah, that's supposed to be some white nationalist thing too.
Is it?
Yeah, that's what they said.
Well,
Yeah.
this is-
So I said, buckwheat. I guess
Yeah.
he was a white nationalist. Ote.
this means a-hole. in
Yeah, that's
sign
what I've always
language.
heard. But I thought
So
that was
it's
like a
upside down-
7th grade
upside down
kid
Yeah,
okay.
thing.
and then of course you got the circle
Oh
game.
yeah, I
where if you
remember
put
that.
it-
Made
yeah.
you look and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to put your finger through the hole and all that
Right.
stuff. That's another top, dude. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Look at all these topics.
You know where we have just discovered this. We were talking about this the other day because he's got an endless supply of topics. So I'm not really worried that we're going to run out because
Right.
he's interested in so many different things.
Fine. Yeah, you're just saying, yeah, we don't need you, Jim.
But no. See, well, that's another good place, another good source. We did a podcast on advertising, which is just fascinating to me because I think and it is to everybody else too. They just don't realize it. But a lot of good ideas for our podcast, for what we're doing, come from clickbait, because clickbait is trying to get you hooked into something. But usually it's something that people are really interested in. They just don't know they're interested in.
Right.
So we started looking through all of this clickbait stuff and going, that's pretty fascinating. We could actually use that as a topic.
Yeah, I mean, like even if the link goes nowhere,
Right.
or goes to an ad or whatever, the fact that you got hooked in, whatever that topic is usually pretty interesting.
There was a what was the episode before that I text you about? I said we ended up doing it. It was the one before advertising, I believe, wasn't it? Superstition, yeah.
Yeah, we listened to that one, my wife
Well,
and
I got that idea from a clickbait ad. It said, "Are you superstitious about so and so?" And I went, "Superstitious." Everybody has an opinion about it, so I texted him and he said, "That's a great idea." So then, boom, we do a whole podcast on that.
And I can appreciate the fact that you brought in that Michael Scott was just stitious, not superstitious.
Not superstitious, yeah, just
but I'm a
stitious.
little stitious.
Yeah. Are you a fan of The Office?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we
Right.
all are. Yeah.
We
Good
watched.
Lord.
How many times have you watched like the show all the way through?
I've probably seen it through about 4 times. I don't know that you've
I've
ever
not seen
it
the
all
whole
way
thing.
through it.
No,
Yeah.
I was early on it when it first came out because I was just like I was early on Moonlighting. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And then when everybody else got into it, I said I didn't want to watch it.
My
also-
doppelganger. Funny thing that you say that. Speaking of doppelgangers, going back to earlier in the show, is
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis.
Sure, you're a dead ringer.
Totally.
Yeah.
The fat version. If he had a fatter younger brother.
And then Seinfeld. I was on the Seinfeld.
You always claim to be the very first person in America watching Seinfeld.
Nobody
I
had
don't-
ever seen it
I
before.
don't
till I
believe
saw
it.
Yeah, it was a summer replacement, and it almost didn't make it. And then when it made it, then everybody got on it, and I stopped watching it. I don't know. I'm an iconoclast like that. I don't like to be like everybody else.
Oh, so you're like the television hipster.
That's
that
right.
guy.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Once it becomes mainstream, I don't want to see it anymore.
Hipsters. Mm-hmm. Another topic.
Hipsters.
Oh,
my
yeah.
gosh.
See, you do things that are very hipster-ish, but you don't even realize that you're a
But
hipster.
so you do too. We were just talking. Susan and I were talking about this morning because he sits out in his yard,
Oh gosh, I don't know.
in a lawn chair with a drink, listening to his record player playing Sam Cooke, on vinyl. And we're going, that is so
Yeah,
hipster.
man.
And but Susan says,
sounds
I
better on vinyl,
I know.
man.
But Susan says, I
Just
like
give it
that. I
the
said, I like
same
that
feel.
too. I mean, sort of a retro thing. So he's gotten a record player. He's gone through. I've got like 1,000 albums that I've never gotten rid of, and I've got them all in in alphabetical order. And everything. He's gone and rated some of them and taken
There's some
them.
great ones.
So he's playing. He's discovered Sam Cooke and.
Guys, if you're listening to this is it's a podcast promoting another podcast. But
we're in an internal feedback loop.
I'm getting a little confused.
I'm a giver like that.
Yes, you are, aren't you?
And
then you can hear Jim on our podcast because he does the open and the close.
The PodGoats are on the air.
It is a silky intro.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you.
Very. You do great work.
Thank you very much.
And here's the thing. Oh, you got to tell him this because one of your friends listened to it and said, "Isn't that the what was,
yeah. What
Harry's? Was it Harry's?
Yeah.
Harry's Razors, or was it?
No. Was it Dollar?
Was it Dollar Shave Club or Harry's or one of those?
That I did?
Yeah, you did it. You did.
Yeah.
You did the ad for them.
I don't think I did. Maybe I did.
And they recognized your voice. And
really?
said,
I can't remember what
Harry,
the ad
whatever
is,
it was.
They recognized.
It's whatever ad it was. I mean, we may not even have that right, but they recognized your voice from the ad, and they could not believe that we had gotten that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They were blown.
Believe it.
I said, believe this. I know him. And they were, what? So now you can go back to that same guy and say, I actually did a podcast with that guy. And they're going to go, oh, my gosh.
That's right.
Big time stuff.
By the way, do you know Paul? I noticed that you're attracted to me. So
Paul was attracted to me too, but he's no longer here. I know, but
do you have a plan on how this thing is going to? This is mainly your thing.
It's mainly his thing
because you do the cover art. You're putting effort into the thumbnails.
He does the editing of the audio now. I've taught him how to do all that stuff.
Oh, really?
He does it.
Well, and Philco, obviously brings the audience and the star power and the professionalism to it. And it wouldn't be anything without
I'm ready
him.
for my close-up.
Every time I try to even kind of throw you a compliment, that's what happens.
Throw me a frickin' bone, why don't you?
Those are for the camera.
I appreciate that.
As far as the future of it is concerned, or where we're going with it, I think that we're the only requirement that we have is no politics.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
They're just fun topics.
Mm-hmm. Just go anywhere that's fun to talk about.
Politics gives you an endless bastion of stuff to talk about. There's always something going on.
And I got a show that does that.
Yeah, I was about to say, we already have that covered. If you're a fan of your show, then
I do it 4 hours a day, 5 days a week.
But it's amazing how many people will probably be exposed to you.
Right.
And don't even know that's what you do.
Well, that's the
day job.
I had a friend who's a girl, and she's very liberal. Mm-hmm. And she started listening to PodGoats and called me, and she said, I thought I hated your dad. I love him.
Yeah.
But she had in her mind that she just absolutely hated him.
And that's fine. Because a lot of people do. And a lot of people do genuinely hate me, even though they, but people have an impression. And so now she's got a different impression, which is fine. And if, look, I don't want to be, we are the world and all that stuff. But if this can actually broaden that thought that we can have different political opinions and not have to hate each other.
Exactly.
I think it's a wonderful thing. I have my opinions, but I don't hate you if you don't like Trump or you like Hillary or whatever. I think you're a freaking idiot. But no, I'm just kidding. but you don't have to hate folks.
And the whole point is you're very good at what you do as a broadcaster.
Thank you.
We're waiting.
Thank you.
Waiting on
appreciate
you
that.
To run away with it. But a lot of people don't want to get involved in the politics and have an opinion of you, and you can enjoy all of these different kind of topics without involving anyone's political opinion.
Right.
Even
we
if
never
they have
even
a very
talk
strong one. You can still have a great conversation with somebody.
Yeah, even when
entertaining.
if we veer into politics, we end up editing it out. So we just don't want politics in it.
My stance on politics, I used to work for talk radio in Vegas, with KXNT, and I was immersed in it. I even got to the Alex Jones aspect of stuff, and it did nothing for my life.
Right.
I tell people all the time, I said, if it's beyond the scope of your control, other than performing, participating in an election. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
And I hope that people listen to my show on the radio.
It's entertaining.
Well, it's entertainment, but they want to be informed about what's going on. But if then you turn that into something, I can't stand this person. If you start drawing battle lines over it, you've gone too far. That's not what my intention is. My intention is, I see a lot of things that I think need fixing, and I want to be part of the solution. But that doesn't mean that everybody who's doing something that I think needs to be fixing is an evil person.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, what were some of the things growing up that, because we've all had them about our dads, right? My kids are starting to see the stuff that they do, this particular action, I guess, in reaction to stuff that I do. But what were some of the eye-rolling things your dad would do?
Oh, I mean, there are a million of them. There's no shortage. This is going to require no thought. One of the ones that we talked about on the show, and speaking of therapy, I should probably be on a couch recounting this because this still haunts my nightmares, is you had that afro wig that we were talking about, and you would call yourself the dang rejectionator. This is when I'm trying to learn how to play basketball so I can play with my friends and on a YMCA team. I'm out there shooting. Philco comes running out in the wig and in, a basketball uniform, and he starts doing this dance, and he goes, "Rejectionators all over you." And I was sitting there going, will this man just let me learn how to play the sport of basketball, please? And you were packing me into the cheap
all over
seats,
you.
man.
Wherever you go, I go too. Boom.
Wake up in a cold sweat hearing that.
The rejectionator. You wake up, oh my God.
I'm talking to it. It's the rejectionator.
I'm going to come look. Next time you're spending the night over the house, which is rare anymore, I'm just going to sneak into your room in the middle of the night with that wig on. Well, and just kind of nudge you a little bit.
I will tell you one thing that I picked up from those episodes is that you had mentioned that, with your kids, you weren't hands off, but you were like, I just kind of let them
make their own mistakes,
or let them be who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something as a father, it's tough to do. My son is a whiz kid. He's actually going to be in a Rubik's cubing competition here in May, and he can solve a 3x3 Rubik's cube.
And that's something you totally do not relate to.
I love it. I love it. I think it's awesome.
But you
all
love
about
it for him. But I'm saying,
self-awareness.
that's not something you would do. Is what I'm saying.
That's not something I'm into.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I'm a drummer.
You let him be himself.
Right.
That's
totally
the way to do it.
He's got the auspice, talent to be a very good drummer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, we started him out around 7 years old, 8 years old, got him a drum set. I'm like, if I was able to start at 7 playing, oh my gosh, I knew exactly that I wanted to be a drummer at that age. So what did my mom get me? She got me a saxophone. And I was like,
drums are too loud.
Right. Yeah. The saxophones. Yeah. That's so much better. But basically,
look, I wanted drums one time, and one of the guys in our town tells this story. He's deceased now. Mm-hmm. But I got a drum set when I was just a kid, probably about his age, maybe a little older. And this guy rode by our house, and there I was at the end of the driveway with the drums. My father had moved me out to as far of the property as he possibly could to get me away from the house. I'm sitting there just beating him. Going,
I can imagine.
But anyway, so your kid, does he want to be a drummer?
That's the thing is a good friend of mine, Rich Redmond, who I actually do, I produce and voice his show. It's called Pick Rich's Brain. He plays for Jason Aldean. He's been with him since '99. And he and I become very good friends. He tells the story of, when he first became a drummer, he was about 7 or 8 years old. Started out with the blue sparkle snare drum. Mm-hmm. He says, but there was a period of time between like 9 to 11, 12 years old that he just, he was into other stuff. He was into speed skating of all things.
Wow.
And he's like, I was a dungeon master at D&D. And
I said, I love D&D.
Yeah. And it's funny because to look at him now, you would never would have thought that. He's got the rock star look, the hair and all that stuff. And there's some early photos of him like, yeah, that's you. But so I'm kind of hopeful that there will be that, come back around. He's going into middle school next year. And, I want to get him into school band. So once you start marinating in other people who do that kind of thing, you tend to want to be better at it. So if he does, great. If he doesn't, I'm not going to be upset.
If he doesn't, he does his own thing.
Exactly. And that's what I needed to hear. So, I mean, it's serving that kind of a purpose. I'm like, well, from a guy who I respect, and it just kind of, it resonated with me. So I took that forward, and there's still some things like soccer practice. We had soccer practice yesterday, and he's just like walking around, and I'm one of the coaches.
Oh, are you?
And I'm the coach with the kids. The kids are running down, and he's like, Bobby
Come
Hill.
on, move it.
Yeah, and I'm going, yeah, that's my kid.
you don't play the hothead coach role.
I've come to realize, and I'm sure you can relate to this. You can't tell your kids anything.
No,
it takes somebody else.
Right.
That's a business idea. To be the guy that took for hire to tell your kids what you want them to tell them.
Right.
Because then they'll go, oh, it's like, when your wife gets hit on at the grocery store, but you as her husband tell her, you're beautiful.
Yeah, whatever.
But then they come home like,
you can't believe
somebody asked me out for coffee.
Yeah, there you go.
That's like that episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David going back to Seinfeld, where they get.
It's a great show.
Yeah. Oh my God. This guy, his wife keeps saying LOL every time she thinks something's funny. So he goes to Larry David and he says, I need you to socially assassinate my wife. What does that mean? So she keeps saying LOL, and so they're in his house, and the wife comes in, and Larry David's, traffic bad? Wasn't too bad, but I'm here now. LOL. And then he looks at her and he goes, you like saying that, don't you? And he just launched this time, and it reminds me of that exact same.
Did he do the Larry David stare down at that point?
And it's just the slow pan. You like saying that, don't you?
We used to do. That was some of the things that I think I should start doing with my kids. I used to do them a lot more when I had the inspiration would strike at that moment. Would be that particular instance, I was putting my daughter to bed one night and I said, "Hey, did you brush your teeth?" She goes, "Yeah." I'm going, "Did you really brush your teeth?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, this is a Larry David stare down moment, isn't it? And I would literally take my phone and put it on me and do the parts of, did you brush your teeth? And I'd be like,
you didn't.
All of his looks and
you didn't get her to breathe into your nose just to make sure. That'd be kind of gross.
And she's like, looking in. I put the camera on her and she's going, I did, I swear. I go, okay.
That sounds just like something you might do. But that's the funny thing. You talk about kids doing things that their parents do, and obviously, I'm pursuing a career that's very similar to yours.
But the new generation of them.
Right. As one guy said, he's a new and improved you.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say that. But what's funny is we're not really all that much alike as people. We've got some similarities.
You're more like your mother.
Yeah, very much so.
She's very outgoing, very social. I hate people. And no offense. It's just.
Are you serious?
I don't hate people. No, I just don't. I don't socialize a lot.
You're very introverted.
I come home with my family, and that's about all I want. I don't go to a bunch of parties. I don't. I'm not. And that surprises folks because they think, well, he's on the radio, he's all talkative,
but a lot of people don't realize. As I've worked with a lot of talk show hosts over the years, that mic comes on, you're on.
Right, I'm on.
Okay, and from Howard.
I'm talked out, man.
Dr. Laura.
I don't want to talk to anybody else. Yeah.
All those guys, off the air, they're just different. Howard's very quiet. I know that from experience.
But that's the other thing is you just get so much stuff done. It blows my mind. You'll have a short story, you'll have just written a screenplay, you'll write the newest Sterling McQueen novel. I don't know how you fit all of this into one day.
Well, he's talented.
Well, yeah, what is your? I know you wake up and eat some bear claws from the gas station. I don't even know why that's.
Wait, do you get them from Twice Daily?
Yeah, twice daily, ladies and gentlemen.
Which also has delicious coffee.
That's
do they
right.
Have delicious coffee
and a bear claw.
Day?
Yeah. It's actually not, and I'm trying not to eat them as much, and nothing against Twice Daily.
But the good thing about Twice Daily is they have actually very healthy food options.
They do, absolutely, sure, yeah. And anyway, no, this is actually a flaw.
I like the fact that we turn towards the camera.
Yeah,
all in unison.
And sell it. Yeah.
Wait, before you go on to this.
Yeah.
Before you ate the bear claws every morning, this is the most old man thing of all time. You go and wake up at 4:00 and go stand outside Bruegger's Bagels before it opened, rapping on the door. Come in.
It's 5:00 now. You said
You're
5.
Outside. That is the most old man pacing outside.
You said 5. Look, I wrote. I wrote most of it. Come on, let me in. It's 5:00 somewhere. Hey, write that down. That's a good song. No, I wrote most of the Sterling McQueen and First Face of Janice novels at Bruegger's.
Really?
Yeah, just having a bagel and sitting there for a few hours in the morning. So that's, you're sort of alone. And you would think with all the noise and everything going, the music, and I don't know, I just got in my own zone. But to answer your question about how I get so much stuff done, I really do, and I'm not saying this to be self-deprecating or even self-defecating. I think that it's a flaw because I cannot relax. I mean, I don't do well with like downtime.
You don't do well with idle hands.
I know. I just can't sit down. I'll be sitting around and watching a TV show. I'm going, I need to be writing, or I need to be doing something productive. I don't like to just sit around and just veg out. And because I've got ADD, I'll sit there and watch a TV show, and they'll say something, and my mind goes off on something I could use in a novel to write that, and then I'll cut it off and I go write, so I can't relax. I don't know why. I've never been able to relax.
You just say you're a creative soul.
I'm not. That's a nice way of putting it.
That's what it is. I mean, you feel like you need to be creating.
Jim,
I need to create.
Yeah, well, I do get a joy out of that, and for things that I write music and produce songs and stuff that in my studio that nobody will ever hear, and I don't want anybody to hear. I do it just for me.
Yeah, well, good for you. That's really good.
Good way to spend your time.
I guess.
I just don't know.
Well,
you
do the same. You read all this stuff too. I mean, all this stuff you bring to the PodGoats. I have no idea where you come up with all this stuff.
But I'm not creating content. You're writing like full-on books.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah.
Screenplays.
You need to up your game, man.
Please.
Well, you're seeing Campbell at age 23, right?
Yeah.
Where were we at age 23? I was still, I thought I was getting into radio at that point.
I was a program director.
I was. Yeah. I wasn't there. I was never a program director.
It was a small station.
I was always a production. I was the guy who got bombarded by salespeople and had to produce.
That's right. I did that too. Yeah.
Did you?
Production. See, I learned in a small station, and so I did news. I did commercial production. I edited. I did on air. I did everything, and so you learn the business that way.
Oh yeah, totally.
It was a great way to do it.
Then you learn that you don't want to be in the business after.
That's exactly right. Time to get out.
Yeah,
I never learned that.
But this is a very strange time with just the internet. I mean, the fact that
you can do this, put out content.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sitting in a car dealership.
You don't need anybody to back you.
Mercedes-Benz of Music City.
That's right,
of course.
Where they have, just down from the airport, ladies and gentlemen, right
across
on Envious Drive.
Envious Lane.
Envious Lane. Right. I like that. Yeah. If you have
part of the Dream Automotive Group, which is one of the best groups out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Are we all three splitting the cut on this?
Totally. We're going to send them a bill.
But I interrupted your train of thought, or did I derail it?
Yeah. But here's what's unique about it, and this is not revolutionary to say, but for me, it's what's been the most noticeable thing, is you can create the content and then shop it around to people and say, do you like this? Do you think that you can, put the proverbial machine behind this? Like, do you think that you can back it? Which is different than how I'm assuming it was for y'all, because you had to get into the structure, work your way up.
You had to get into the machine.
Right. They were middlemen.
Yeah, you had to crawl through the machine.
Yeah, we started at the bottom of the machine.
I mean, I
am the machine, pal.
My first foray on the air was by happenstance. I was in a production studio cutting my teeth, and a very good friend of mine now, he and I were both coming up. He had the night shift. The program director, his wife would get like a hangnail, and he'd take out, and the night guy would have to fill in for him, and then whoever did voice tracked overnights would actually come in and have to do that. We couldn't get a hold of that guy.
So you're on, man.
I was literally like, well, who else is in the building?
Yeah.
Is the janitor.
How old were you?
I was probably 22, 23. And he comes in, he goes, hey, you want to be on the air? And I'm like, well, yeah, eventually. That would be nice. He's like, no, now.
No, right now.
I'm going, sure, okay. And it was a 50,000 watt stick.
Yeah.
And that was my friend. Yeah. And because the program director had heard my voice on spots, which is why he took a chance.
Yeah.
So I was halfway, quarter of the way competent.
Right. Well, you got to be in the game.
Right. But I was also a natural ham to begin with.
That helps.
I tell voiceover people all the time. I said, if you're not a natural ham, this is going to be tough for you.
It is.
Doing voiceover.
You can't
stuff.
be somebody you're not.
You can't.
You just got to go for it.
Yeah. You got to be colorful. You got to understand how to read copy and everything. But eventually, I got tired of front selling and back selling the latest from Led Zeppelin, because it was a classic rock station.
Right.
Classic rock.
Another 4 in a row.
Today's rock.
Did you have to walk up the post?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you.
I did that the other day.
See, it's funny. We'll be riding down the road. And
I tried to stump you.
Right.
He was talking about how good he is at walking up the post, and so I was playing some songs that were probably on the radio when you were doing it. And you were, going through this thing, and I was like, all right, well, you got those, but can you do some that you've never heard? So I started playing some songs from my generation that have got real tricky, like false starts. Mm-hmm. So you go through this one, you're listening to 99.7, and then you realized it wasn't over, and you said, and in the summer rays, make sure you turn so you don't burn, folks. Keep this dial right where it is.
But back in the day,
and I walked it right up, man.
In the carts on the labels, I think it was required. I mean, if a program director would he would give you the walk-up time on the label.
12 seconds, whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I know it instinctively because of the music.
Yeah.
It's that's 3 bars, 4 bars, and you know what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to do that. They're going to repeat it. They're going to repeat it again, and then they start singing, and it's just sort of an innate.
But
thing.
I got you with that one.
Yeah, you did get
you had to improvise.
Yeah, well, but you got to.
But you're playing Dream Theater?
Turn so you don't burn.
Dream Theater?
Yeah. Like,
what is Dream Theater?
you never heard of Dream Theater?
Oh my gosh, he's got you. He stumped you. I can't believe it. Take a drink out there, folks. This is a drinking game. Oh, the Campbell
Dream
Theater.
Dream Theater. They're like they own the progressive rock metal world. They've been out
Is this
since
a group?
91. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure there are a lot of people that are like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They're a math band, upside down time signatures, 1916 times.
Yeah, I hate those.
Yeah.
As a drummer, you got to that drives you crazy.
Or you just it trains you. It teaches you how to count.
Like some of the Led Zeppelin stuff, where they would go into and they would change in the middle.
Kashmir?
Yeah.
Yeah, sliding time signatures on top of each other.
What was that?
You guys got to do a show on talk about end games and then tie it into the Avengers Endgame coming out April 26th.
Wow.
Into a theater near you.
Another one of those.
How many advertisements?
Oh my gosh! I got to fit them in. They're all in my head. But I mean, that's in Avengers. What tipped me off was that when one of the characters in Thor, lately they've been putting what's that song? Dun 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 dun.
The immigrant song.
No, immigrant song.
Yeah.
They've been putting whenever he does his thing and he wields his axe and his eyes light up. They start playing that, and it's just awesome. They started doing it at the end of Ragnarok. Are you guys Avengers fans?
No.
Yeah, well, I am. I'm
not.
I'm more casual. That reminds me, we used to play this game in college where
that was a squirrel moment.
The scenario was, all right, you're backed up against a huge cliff, and there are 50,000 undead soldiers running at you. What is the one song that plays while you fight them, and what's your one weapon? People would always be like, wait, I've got one.
Stormbreaker.
It would just be something so sweet. You'd be like, oh, that's great.
Mine would be Mandy. So,
and you came and you
but I mean, think of that. I mean, it's like a Quentin Tarantino thing,
Yeah.
They're coming at
what
you.
What kind of weapon are you going
Oh,
to use?
Mandy. A guitar. Well,
a guitar.
You would love
You're kidding.
the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, we love that. Yeah,
You like those movies?
Yeah, we love those.
So
this man also loves Kevin James movies. So
Yeah. Well, not all of them, but I love some of them.
we'll give you
Die
that.
Hard, Kevin James.
I'm not die
Wrote an
hard.
angry email to the Oscars.
No.
For not nominating.
Have you ever met him, Kevin James?
I've never have met him.
I met him in Vegas once.
Did you really?
Nice
Did you?
guy.
He seems like he'd be a really nice
He really
guy.
is, and it was funny because in that instance, I mean, working in Vegas was very advantageous because not only did I develop my highly refined Christopher Walken impression there,
Yes. But you met Christopher Walken.
I didn't meet him. No, I met Jay Moore, who does a killer Walken
does he?
impression.
Okay.
And then I realized that my talent had some shortcomings because I just impersonate other people who impersonate people. And
This is Jay Moore doing Christopher Walken.
And that's exactly because he would actually come in. He's like, "Hey, your Walken impression is solid." I said, "Dude, it's me doing Walken." And he goes, "Yeah, but you just got to work on." I'm like, "Oh, "Okay, I'll coach me. I'm good."
Can you do Jay Moore though? I don't even know what he would sound like.
He almost naturally sounds like Walken. He's kind of got this very a wispy type of voice.
Doesn't he do a sports show too?
He does.
Yeah,
More sports.
You know who Jay Moore is? You would know him if you saw him.
I think so.
He was in what was
Jerry
the show with
Maguire.
the money? Yeah, Jerry
Oh,
Maguire.
yeah.
Jerry, he played
was the
Bob
bad agent.
Sugar,
Yeah.
who fired Tom Cruise, who fired Jerry Maguire.
I'm
He
following
did,
you.
and it's funny because he was one of the first people. Because back then I was all about figuring out what word you own in the mind of the prospect and marketing and stuff. And I had the same thing about actors. Jay Moore And he came into the studio and he's like, yeah, I'm really working on this. We're trying to get me in other movies. And I said, the character that you're really good at is you're really good at playing a jerk. And he's kind of looked at me and I said, I'm just saying. I said, you're not a jerk in real life, but dude, the look about you, your attitude, it just reeks of...
Perfect jerk.
Oh, totally. I said, you're like a Danny Trejo of the jerk genre.
Right.
You can own that. I'll just be the jerk. I said, you can make millions off that. Danny
Trejo movies make so much money.
Met him. He's a good guy.
Really?
He's a nice guy. He's like that high.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. But he was a really nice guy. Story about him, when we lived in Vegas, Courtney, my wife, is a trained massage therapist, was trained out there. She worked at the Venetian and Canyon Ranch and everything. But we went to... when we used to go out, one of the stations was KLUC, which is a top 40 station, and they had all the clubs. So whenever they have a club night with the radio station, we were invited out, and typically people would spend $1,000 to get in, all the different things that came with it. We got it all for free because we were in radio, and we couldn't afford it anyway. And but he was there as a guest of the morning show guy, Danny Trejo. And on the way out, we had a couple of drinks. We were going to our after party, which actually was a cafe. We'd go 3 a.m, eat some stuff before heading home, and we're following Danny Trejo out of the club. And Courtney, typically when she had a few in her, she'd get start giving people shoulder rubs and stuff like that. She comes up behind him and grabs his shoulders and starts massaging them, and he kind of he immediately, what the crap?
Wait a minute,
I said, Courtney, you realize he did spend time in San Quentin prison. So he's probably not exactly excited as someone grabbing him from behind.
He's liable to kill you.
Yeah. And she's like, oh my gosh, didn't think about that.
But what did he say to her?
He was fine. He smiled at her, and she kept on doing it, and whatever. She did that to, this is another story about Courtney.
This is sexual harassment now. Sexual assault.
I've never even heard of anybody giving unprompted shoulder rubs.
Well, that's because they're all in jail.
It's very nice.
It's probably not the worst thing to do when you're drunk.
That's true.
One of the things we did, Howard would do his show every year from the Hard Rock. And a couple of years I helped out our engineering team to do the show. And Courtney was able to go with my comrades on the radio station and hang out with them. And we went to the Spearmint Rhino, which is one of the premier, spearmintrhino.com, one of the premier strip clubs in Vegas.
Premier strip club.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right.
That's an oxymoron.
They will serve you sushi topless, which is very odd.
Here's the thing, folks.
Honestly.
Right.
Don't ever get a meal where they strip. It's my advice to you.
Or go there during the day shift.
Or don't ever
You can't unsee that.
Or don't ever strip when you get a meal.
Deja vu is that they have a breakfast buffet.
Yeah. We went to a lunch
that extremely fast. A buffet,
We made jokes about that. Who would go eat at Deja Vu? Come on, folks, please.
So she, that one night she saved Rob Schneider from a falling plate of shrimp.
Wow.
Yeah, it was weird. And he was completely blasted out of his mind. She saw what was happening, and the waitress was coming by, and he bumped into her, and the shrimp started, and she grabbed him and pulled him out of the way, and he looked up at her, and he was like, thanks. I'm like, you just saved Rob Schneider from a falling plate of shrimp.
Wow.
And so he had all the guests that he has on when he's out in the show. So they were there with us. So it was like a smorgasbord of A, B, and C, well, actually B and C list celebrities. And one of them was this guy who she was at the buffet getting some food and whatever, and I had just happened to show up, and I saw who she was with, and I was kind of laughing at who this guy was. And he was talking to her. They were going back and forth, and she's like, well, he was an interesting guy. I said, you have no idea who that is, do you? She goes, none. I said, you remember Goodfellas? And she goes, yeah. I said, remember Ray Liotta's character, Henry Hill? She goes, yeah. I said, that's him.
Oh, my
That's who that movie was based off of.
Oh, really? Yeah. That was the real guy?
The real Henry Hill.
Mobster, huh?
Yeah.
Wise guy.
We did a whole podcast on mobsters.
Look,
you remember that? But you remember that? Hey,
this man will not
talk to me,
This
Joey.
man will not stop. He will not stop.
Do you remember the mobsters podcast episode that we did at the PodGoats?
Mobsters.
All right, there you go. That's all I want you to do is do the mobster voice.
Somebody's got to do the Tony Soprano mobster voice.
That's a trick.
Oh, yeah.
He's got this nasally
I can't do that.
That's pretty spot on. That's a great
Did you remember Courtship of Eddie's Father? You know, people, let me tell you about my best friend. Remember that? Somebody did that with the Sopranos. They put the Sopranos to that music, and he's slapping him and knocking him. Let me tell you about my best friend. You know, it was hilarious. It's probably on YouTube somewhere.
That was a great show. Mm-hmm. But we'll wrap it up. We're doing an hour, and I don't want to take up much of your time. You got to be on the air in like 10 minutes.
Yeah. I got to be home tanning and drinking and listening to a record player.
And listening to Sam Cooke on vinyl.
Exactly.
But thanks, guys, for being on.
Thank you for having us.
Check out PodGoats.com.
PodGoats.com.
And all the great cover art. The thumbnail art is actually really good.
Pretty cool.
A lot of green screen going on.
Oh, yeah. We got a green screen actually set up in the cabin permanently now.
The cabin.
Yeah.
Live from the cabin.
That's right.
Cabin.
Get one of these and start videoing.
We do need one of those.
Because then all of a sudden you got Facebook and YouTube. You can start attracting
everything.
attention.
Yeah.
Not that you need, your numbers are solid. We talked about.
We are. They're pretty solid. Yeah.
So for somebody who wants to advertise, what are these numbers like? You know, you want to talk about that?
Oh, you mean how much it would cost to advertise?
Well, that.
Oh, they probably can't afford it.
What do they get?
I don't know. We have a separate advertising arm,
right?
That they handle all that. So I don't even know what I couldn't tell you rates. I couldn't tell you.
They get the Excel
spreadsheet.
Yeah,
but I mean, as far as audience numbers, you said 60,000 downloads.
Yeah, so far, yeah.
That's really good.
You know, it's 61, Jim, actually, but 61,000. What's another 1,000?
I want to say 61,238.
We're piling on 1,000 or 2 a day.
Right.
Which
good.
is pretty good.
And folks have left us really, really nice.
What was the first episode numbers that you had? Just out of curiosity.
About a couple of hundred.
Yeah,
a couple of hundred.
400 maybe.
I have no idea what mine are. I'm just doing them, putting them out there because I know I don't have the.
You can get kind of bogged down in it.
Yeah.
And people ask about it. You know, you're on some of these, you know, the Nashville podcast, Facebook and everything, and people, you know, what's a good number for my? Well, the average out there is about, they say, 150 to 200 an episode. Mm-hmm. If you care about that kind of stuff, what we care about is, are we continuing to grow? You know, so what I do is, like the morning of an episode, we release on Wednesday morning and Sunday morning. I'll take that number, whatever it is, 62,000. I'll divide it by how many episodes we got, and I'll see, are we growing from last week? Are we still adding a few, you know? And if we're adding a few, then we're doing the right thing. If we're not, if we're like that, and which we haven't been, we've been going up the whole time. But if we start going down, we got to go, okay, are we doing something, can we do something better? And I think that's what it is about podcasting, is just do the best you, because you got the luxury afterwards of being able to edit too.
Well, I mean, you have the benefit of you having the equity of bringing, attracting bees to the hive. Right. But it's also, okay, he's doing a podcast. What's this all about? Let me try it out. Then all of a sudden we're introduced to you, and I'm like, oh, this is really good stuff.
Well, thank you.
It is.
But that's the thing, though. It's a double-edged sword. I do bring a lot of people from the show, but then a lot of people going, it's not politics. I don't want to hear about it. You know, they don't know what it is.
It's behind-the-scenes stuff almost.
Well, I guess.
Yeah.
And,
you described it as the Phil Valentine show after hours.
After a deeper dive into, you know, my life with one of my kids, you know.
Yeah.
And so,
how do your brothers think about it?
They love it.
I don't even know that Carr has listened to more than a couple episodes. Douglas loves it.
Yeah.
But Carr's like, I'm gonna get caught up on it.
He's got other stuff doing. He's working out, you know.
So is it one of those things like, well, Dad, what are you going to do with me?
It's not, because you know that's the thing about, you know, Carr.
People see this as me falling on the sword.
That's right. So you got to do something with the old man, so we
keep
don't.
Him entertained. Or you'll start busting our room doing the rejectionator thing again.
Well, the good thing is that you can put the visuals to it. You can wear the wig.
That's true. Yeah,
during one
wear that on. Yeah, there it is. We still got the wig. Yeah.
That would be hilarious. Well, thank you for being a part of the JMVO Weekly Primer. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Brought to you by Big Dot Lighting.
Big Dot Lighting.
Mercedes-Benz in Music City. And Twice Daily Deja Vu.
The new Avengers movie.
The new Avengers movie coming out April 26th.
And don't forget Diamond Gusset Jeans. That's two S's, one T. Diamond Gusset, gusset.com.
And Diamond Gusset Jeans, I do have availability for extra sponsors on
there
my
you
podcast.
Go, yeah. Well, they love podcasting.
Well, I'll keep on giving me shout-outs. I would really appreciate that. That would be just
and when you listen to the
wonderful.
PodGoats, you'll know that the guy doing the intro and the outro is
this guy, this bloated Bruce Willis dude.
Bruce Willis.
You know, that's trying to do his own show.
Can you say yippee-ki-yay, mother?
I can. Yeah. No. I can only look like him.
There you go.
So, and much funny because my father looked like him too from the moonlighting days.
Really?
Yeah, everyone used
with
to
the hair and everything.
Oh, yeah, he did. But thanks, guys, for being a part of it. Again, brought to you by big.lighting.com. Check us out. This, of course, please subscribe, rate, and listen to the podcast. Share it with your friends. And I'm talking to you guys, too.
Sure.
So, but thanks for being a part of it. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks for
so much, Jim,
meeting me here to do it.
Thanks. You promised me a free Mercedes when we left.
Totally.
Okay.
You'll get with me after the show.
This is the JMVO Weekly Primer. Please subscribe, rate, and comment via JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com /podcast.